dream. I was flying high, I was feeling fine. I won't be put in line, 'cause I'm ready to do my time.
Simply Financial with Christopher Calandra, Certified Financial Planner, is an innovative, comprehensive, informative, and cutting-edge podcast that discusses financial topics ranging from personal finance, economics, politics, and personal growth. Simply Financial will cover intriguing and thought-provoking questions so that the listener can simply increase their financial IQ.
Welcome to the Simply Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. This is episode 26 of season number 3. On today's episode, I have a special guest. Of course, all of my guests are special, but this is one of my favorite people in the world. My daughter, Marissa, asked to come on the show. Hopefully you've listened to all of the Simply Financial episodes. But recently, for the first time ever, I did a 5-part series, Battle of the Sexes. I did 3 episodes with my wife, Joelle. The first 2 talking about money in a relationship and marriage. Then later on in the 5-part series, we did an episode about kids and money. I also did 2 episodes with Lindy Brock from Elliott Wealth Management Services. And she and I talked about money in relationships, and then also talked about, in a separate episode, money and kids. And so my daughter, who's an avid listener of the Simply Financial podcast, said, hey, I want to come on. There's some things that you guys talked about that I agree with, some things that I disagree with. So I didn't really have any choice. Wanted to have her on the show. Thanks for sitting with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so just to set the stage, Marissa is 18, soon to be 19. She just finished her freshman year at college. It was a successful year, especially academically. And she has been working for a while and is also helping here with Elliott Wealth Management Services over her summer break between freshman and sophomore year. So did you enjoy listening to Mom and I talk on the Battle of the Sexes?
Yeah, I think it was definitely weird at first because I'm so used to talking to you guys in person, so hearing it, over the phone was definitely something very different for me. I was listening with headphones. I was actually on vacation, and my friends were kind of making fun of me. I tend to be a lot like my dad and enjoy some things that people might call nerdy, and so the 3 of us are by the pool in Florida, and we were all listening to music, but I was sitting there listening to my parents' podcast, but I thought it was really cool, and I also think it's really interesting to hear you and Mom talking about business and finances, especially because that's what I'm interested in college.
So I know you had presented me with some notes and thoughts, kind of an outline for us to work off of here this morning as we record this. But can you think of anything that kind of surprised you as you were listening? And you listened to the episodes with Lindy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So across any of the 5 episodes, is there anything that jumps out that surprised you?
I think something that seemed surprising to me was how you and Mom tended to kind of almost disagree a little bit on my take on money and how I deal with it. I mean, I think overall you guys know me very well, but it was definitely interesting for me to hear you guys, I guess, had a little bit of different thoughts.
Different perspectives.
On how I use my money, my view on money.
Okay. Which brings us to one of the things that I know you wanted to get on the record. One of the things, and for those of you listening, I would refer you back to the Battle of the Sexes series, which is season 3 of the Simply Financial podcast, and it's episodes 20 through 24. But one of the things that your mom and I talked about, what Joelle and I talked about, was that we believe that you're more of a natural spender, and Dominic, your brother, my son, who is younger, is more of a saver, and you had some thoughts about that.
I think, for the most part, that tends to be true. I think I've gotten better over, especially the past year or so, with just kind of being aware of where my money goes. I was one of the first of my friends to work. I've always been, out of my friends, one of the ones who worked the most and tended to have the most understanding, I think, of money for a while. I like to spend my money. I like to go out to eat. I love to go shopping. My dad calls my closet a boutique. So I have always enjoyed that, but I do think since attending my business classes and talking with my parents, I've definitely increased my understanding about money, and I feel like I've gotten better.
Okay. And I think one of the things that you had written down, which I could appreciate, is that you pointed out that Dominic is more of a natural saver, but when he spends money, he tends to spend money on bigger ticket items. So it's less frequently, but more expensive. And it's funny that you had written that down, because I have similar conversations with your mom about this, because I will not spend money much. You know, I could go days without spending money, and if I have some cash in my pocket, I could go quite a while and not spend any money. But when I do spend money, I can do some damage. So, for example, shopping for clothes. I'll go a long time without shopping for clothes, but then one day I may go and I'll buy all kinds of stuff, and it'll be a pretty big tally. But for many, many days, I'm able to say, yeah, I don't spend a lot of money, but I can make up for it in one day shopping. And you pointed that out between you and Dominic. You're more frequent shopper and spend money on more days than he does. But when he gets in the game and he spends money, it could be a pretty big ticket item.
Yeah, and I also think the things that he chooses to spend money on are very different than me. For example, I will jump right at a shirt that I see that I like, or, you know, a new shade of lip gloss that came out, or coming up with a plan with my friends if we wanted to go out to eat. But when it comes to other things, like I have one speaker that I use. I have one Bluetooth speaker. I've had it for years. But my brother tends to always go shopping on Amazon. And every couple months he sees a new Bluetooth speaker that he wants. He sees a new pair of headphones, something like that. So I think that those are larger ticket items and he buys them less frequently. But spending, you know, $50 to $100 on a speaker or AirPods, you know, every few months, as opposed to my buying a $10 shirt and a lip gloss, or going out to dinner and spending $20 every few days. I think while I do spend more, there are different types of spending that we choose to do.
Okay, and one of the areas, well said, one of the areas that you had written some notes down that you kind of agreed with us, and I know you and I especially have talked about this topic, the topic of debt and credit cards and loans. So what are your thoughts on that as an 18-year-old well, I guess you're a sophomore in college now, about debt and credit cards from your vantage point?
I've had a debit card since I was, 16? I think when I started my job at the Y, we opened an account.
Yes.
So I've had a debit card for about 3 years now. I've always, when I was in school, in my high school senior year, I had a rule that I would not let my bank account get below $500.
Okay.
And then as I started to work my second job later in the year, I created a rule for myself that I would not let it go below $1,000. And for the most part, I stayed pretty true to that. I tried my best to stay with those goals and to not go below my account. And I think that that was a really good goal for me, and it taught me. In college, it was different. I wasn't working as much, but I believe that if I had a credit card, I don't believe that I would go into debt. I tend to watch my money, and I think that it's something that's valuable to have. I think it's a good thing to have an experience with as well.
So what you developed those minimum thresholds. That's not something that I imparted to you or Mom, right? This is something you created on your own that would work for you.
I don't believe that you even knew about that until now.
I don't think so. But that is a form of budgeting. It's a way that you put upon yourself discipline as far as, I'm going to keep this amount or above, and then when it's above that amount, you do give yourself some freedom to enjoy your money. But when it gets to your self-imposed threshold, you either need to work more or cut back on your spending.
Yes.
So that's a really, really good life skill. Believe it or not, I've met lots and lots of people over my 26-year career, Marissa, that, you know, haven't employed any type of discipline like that. And what you're doing specifically might work for some, won't work for others. But that discipline, that purposefulness with your money will really help you achieve a lot. So that's a good life lesson. And you don't have a credit card, you use the debit card, but do you feel that if you had a credit card, you said this already, that if you had a credit card, you would be responsible with it?
I do. I think something that I even suggested to you and Mom was that building a credit score early, people say it all the time, and it's a lot of different things you hear from teachers, and you hear from parents, and you hear from commercials and banks and stores, different ideas about a credit card and whether or not they should be used by younger adults. But I think that it's important for me to kind of understand the responsibility that comes with it. I cannot go to the store and spend $400 every week just because I have the credit card. I think if I had a credit card, I've talked about possibly using it to buy gas once a month and then just keeping it in a drawer just to be exposed to the credit card and the idea of debt and paying things off monthly without having the ability to go above and beyond my means.
Okay. And just to catch listeners up, is the deal that Marissa and I have worked out, and it's, Joelle is involved in this, but I think this is something that Marissa and I have talked about, is that while she's in college, I have requested of her, now she's increasingly moving toward adulthood, and if you're listening there and you're a parent, you could appreciate that she's not 10 anymore, and I can't tell her what to do in the same way as when she's 18, and it'll be even different when she's 21 years and older. Is that what we've worked out is don't take on any debt while you're in school. Don't buy a car with a loan. Don't use credit card. Deal with the credit score later and just get through school without using debt. And that's what I've asked of her, and she's been agreeable. It's not because I think you'd be irresponsible with money, but do you find examples, because maybe I'm biased, you're my daughter, and maybe because I'm a financial geek, some of it runs off on you, is do you find with your friends, have you seen instances where you think maybe they're being irresponsible with money, perhaps with credit cards, or have you not come across that yet?
I've come across friends who I believed were irresponsible with their parents' money. I don't believe that I've come across friends who I would call irresponsible with their own money.
Okay.
I know friends that carry around, both at home and at school, their parents' credit card in their pocket. I know kids who easily just text their parents and say, "Hi, can you transfer money into my account?" And they easily do so, and then they will go spend money on something that I believe to be slightly irresponsible.
Okay.
However, in my small circle of people that I hung out with, I don't believe that anyone off the top of my head was actually very irresponsible without money.
Okay, good. And you also had some thoughts, because we talked about in several of the episodes, both your mom and I, as well as Lindy and I, talking about, working as a high schooler into college. And I know many of your friends work, but still others have not worked. Even some that are in college have yet to hold a job. And we don't want to be judgmental because everybody's different. Every family situation is different. But can you talk a little bit about what work has meant for you and why you feel it's important as you develop into an adult and will enter into the full-time workforce within a few years?
So I believe the first job that I had was the YMCA, at least the first legit 16 and older paying job. And I remember the day that I turned 16, I told Mom that I wanted to go find a job. And we drove up and down the main street in our town, and I picked up applications, and I filled them out, handed them in. I was so excited. I got my first job, and I remember sitting down at the bank and creating my checking account with my debit card, and I just remember thinking, like, this is so cool, I feel so adult, this is awesome. And I think at first I went a little overboard in my spending. If I remember correctly, you and Mom had to add to my account because I went below what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Within the first week or two.
The minimums that the bank has.
Yes.
Okay.
And then after that, I think I was responsible. I didn't work much, it wasn't many hours, and then later in the year I asked my parents, I asked you and Mom, if I could get another job, and you guys said as long as you keep your grades up and you keep working hard and doing the right thing, we support that. We understand you want more money. And after that, I really started to enjoy working. I picked up shifts when I could while still being able to have fun with my friends and do other things. But I genuinely do enjoy working in all the jobs that I've had. I think that there's something really cool about being able to make money and be able to choose what you want to do with it. I take a lot of pride in the money that I make, and I enjoy doing things with my friends and shopping for myself, shopping for my family and my friends for holidays and all that. And I think it's rewarding, and I think that I almost feel bad for the kids that don't have that experience, because I think it teaches you a lot. It really prepares you for the future.
Do you think, and I'm just curious, do you think that you're studying business, and who knows